Hi everyone, this is Katie Groves, and in this video I'm going to be talking about a dream that I just woke up out of a little bit ago, and about covert malignant narcissism in general. This dream, as well as at least one other nightmare I had last night, I think was catalyzed by the discovery I just made that my mother had officially subscribed to my YouTube channel from her YouTube channel, one of them at least, a few months ago. I found the notification buried in my Gmail inbox, and seeing this made me realize just how much healing I have already done around her, but it also brought up some things to heal more. And I've started intensively doing some inner work around the abuse that I suffered at her hands. And I think it's what brought on these nightmares I had last night, which were about her. I also had another one that was about my dad. I'm not going to go into any, though, in this video, other than the one that I just woke up out of, so the last one that I had. I'm sorry if I'm glitchy. I'm having some anxiety right now as it was traumatic. So, first of all, I want to say this dream is really weird and there's some violence in it. I'm going to make a detailed trigger warning, so for those who want to know more, I will put it in the description below, both for the video in general and also for the specifics of the dream. I will also put timestamps for when I start talking about the dream and when I finish, so that those who want to skip it can do so, and just get to the part where I talk about narcissism itself. So, this dream started out in what I'm guessing was a condo, this little house of what appeared to be a doppelganger or some kind of alternative universe version of a man named Todd Nickerson, who is kind of the spokesperson for VirPed, an online community for non-offending pedophiles. I spoke about him in a video of mine called TW in support of non-offending pedophiles, a child trafficking survivor's perspective. I believe that's what it was called. I'll put a link to that in the description below for anyone who's interested. And apart from a comment that Todd left on that video and the brief exchange we had there, I've never spoken to him, so I'm not sure why he factored into this dream, but I think that it's probably because he is a non-offending pedophile and my mother is a child sex abuser, and I have some theories as to why this all happened in this dream. So anyways, I'm at this version of his condo / house, and my mom is there. Everything's really brightly lit. There's lots of windows, and I remember this feeling of being really exposed. I don't like bright lights. I don't like big windows usually, even though they're pretty. They make me feel exposed. And I'm sitting on the couch next to, we're just going to go ahead and say Todd, and my mother is next to me. And everything feels really out of context, kind of like I dropped into this dream part way, which very well may be because I do dream in dissociative parts, so sometimes I black out in my dreams and come to at different points. For whatever reason in this dream, Todd, my mother, and I are planning to go on the cross-country trip that my boyfriends and I in real life are planning to go on, planning to travel homeless. This is funny to me because I don't know about Todd, but my mother is the last person who would ever do something like that. And my mother is sitting there looking just unbelievably disapproving and judgmental and hostile and hateful, like she normally looked whenever I was introducing her to someone positive who may develop a positive hold on me and interrupt her abilities to control me, which is what I imagine in this dream she was thinking of Todd, as Todd was being very polite and friendly, and of course Todd is also somebody who appears to have broken the cycle of child sexual abuse, which is something that my mother would be absolutely terrified of me ever doing. And of course, this is something that I feel that I have done, but in this dream, I want to point out that I was multiple different ages, and in many ways, I was a child, so I wasn't exactly the current me who has officially broken this cycle. I was a younger kid who was still in the midst of all of that abuse. And so I don't remember much of what was said. This happens a lot, that I have dreams where it seems like everyone's speaking in a foreign language. Like when I wake up, I realize that I haven't understood most of what was said. And so I feel that I was probably either dreaming in another language through dissociative parts, or I was dreaming in English through dissociative parts that don't speak it. Something like that. It's a thing for me. Having been Monarch programmed, I was programmed to know a tremendous number of languages, yet not be able to access them in my conscious mind. So it comes out in my dreams, even though I haven't been able to make much progress in transferring those skills to myself in my waking life. So I don't know much of what was said, but I know that the body language, Todd was being really friendly and personable and trying not to upset my mother. My mom was being incredibly hostile and saying very little without justifiable cause. And I myself was just in the middle of all this, very small, trying to survive. And I don't remember how this happened, but at some point there was some kind of conflict. Like my mother's rage started to come out either through me reacting or her expressing it more directly. And my mother and I are standing outside now, and it's really dark. We're standing in front of this house underneath this big overhang in this parking lot. And I'm trying to get through to my mother and convince my mother that everything's okay. Todd is a good person. Whatever the hell she thinks is happening is not happening. Sorry for my language if that triggered anyone. I shouldn't have said that. But I'm trying to convince her that what she thinks is happening isn't happening, but it's not getting through. I'm not sure if this happened before or after this point, but I do remember that at one point I said to not just Todd and my mother, but also Todd's roommates who were in the room at this point now. Not sure when that happened, but suddenly they were there. I said to them that I was sick of this. I wanted to leave. I had remembered that I was an adult and suddenly realized that I was physically 19 years old at the time. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm 22 now. So this is kind of weird. But I realized that I was an adult, and I think this is significant because I had regressed so much in dealing with my mother that I had forgotten that I was legally an adult and I could just walk out. I really didn't realize that I could leave. I was so traumatized and dissociated and small that I felt that she was holding me hostage when, technically speaking, programming aside, she wasn't. So I realized this and I went to walk out, at which point I guess I realized that it was nighttime and I noticed that I was wearing sandals and a short skirt and that I was not equipped to be walking the incredibly long distance that it would take to get back from this area to civilization. Some flashes I had in my mind of where I was going to go make me think that I was on the far south side of Austin, Texas. I grew up on the far north side of Austin, but I did spend some time on the south side too. And I remember walking out the door and noticing, this is rather personal, but I think it's significant. I noticed that my legs had not been shaved in a while, and this scared me because I knew that I wasn't equipped to just sleep outdoors and that I would have to find a place to stay that night, and was worried that my legs being that way would get in the way of me being able to secure that. When I was a teenager, I spent a lot of time on the street and sleeping at different cult members' houses. I thought that I was just trying to get away from my mom. I didn't know about MKUltra. Now I know that I was trying to get away from her, but I was manipulating the system within MKUltra in order to get myself this position of being outside and couch surfing so that I would be safer. And in exchange for doing that, I was being used to sell drugs, and I was being sold on more of a street level, sold sexually. So that, I think, is the context for me fleeing my mother and being concerned that my legs were not in a proper state to sell myself sexually in that moment in order to survive out there. So that was just a brief flash that I think was significant. But anyways, so that happens, and then I don't remember what the timing of this was because it's very dissociated, but then I was outside. My mother was standing in front of me, and I was trying to talk to her, but it wasn't getting through at all. I could feel that she wasn't hearing anything that I was saying. She was just looking so hostile and angry and disapproving, like she so often would for no discernible, justifiable cause. And then, I don't know how this happened, but there appeared this woman with short curly hair, this middle-aged woman, kind of plump, and she was in this uniform. It was kind of casual, but it was this t-shirt with some kind of logo. I don't know what, but I think the t-shirt was white with like a black logo. I know the colors black and white are significant in programming for me as well as many other people, so I think that was part of why it was like that, but I'm not sure. And she kind of looked like an overzealous Christian camp counselor. She had this giddy look on her face. It was really crazed, though, and it was that very cliche Joker Venom smile and eyes that is found in MKUltra. I don't want to trigger people by saying all this, but I don't know how else to explain it, and I figure most MK victims will know what I'm talking about. For those who don't know about it, I'm going to try and find some examples of it. The most overt ones I've found in celebrities are this picture of Nicki Minaj and this picture of Hillary Clinton. I think most of you will be familiar with the Hillary Clinton face, so I'm going to just put that in the description, and hopefully you will get a sense of what I'm talking about. So this lady had that kind of face. It wasn't quite as exaggerated as the pictures I'm going to put in the description, but it was pretty bad. And again, she was talking, and I have no idea what she was saying. It was like she was speaking in a language I didn't understand, but I could feel, like, in my soul what this person was saying. And my impression of what was happening was that this lady was part of some kind of intervention team that was there to gaslight me, that was there to deal with me being so troubled and defiant as if I was a child, right? All because I was going to walk away from my mother and her covert narcissistic abuse. And I told this lady to basically shut up and get out of my way. I don't remember if those were my words. I know I said the phrase shut up. And I said it really forcefully, and she smiled and said okay and something like that, and reacted like those people often do. You know, they get super venomously sugary nice when you stand up for yourself to them. At least that's been my experience. And she got out of the way. My mother's then still standing really close in front of me, and I'm trying to talk to her again, and then appears a midget. And I think it's significant to note that I was somehow eye level with this guy, which means that I was a small child. And I'm going to pause here and say that in between these occurrences, as if I was in more than one place at once, I was also on the couch next to Todd, really close to him, whispering to him that my mother was not an ordinary abusive mother. My mother had sexually abused me from birth until I was a teenager, at which point a part of me pointed out that I was still technically a teenager. I was 19, and I remember not being sure whether the abuse had stopped or not. And then, whether the sexual abuse had stopped or not, dissociatively. I was worried that it had continued. And a part of me suggested that I refrain from telling Todd that my mother had been selling me, which was something I thought to say. So I just told him that she had been sexually abusing me. And I don't remember what he said. Again, it was garbled, but I think he said something about his own mother. For the record, I want to be clear that I know nothing about Todd Nickerson's mother. I've never spoken to him about her. This is just what happened in the dream. So somehow that was happening at like the same time. Time was very odd. But then I was standing there, like I said, with my mother and this midget, and the midget was doing the same thing as that older lady with the curly hair. He had the same kind of face, although he looked a little more frightened than her. He looked a little bit more like he was actually being held hostage in the programming. And he's doing the same thing, and I got so enraged. I think I might have told him to stop. I'm not sure if I could get the words out, but he's, kind of blocking my way with my mother a little bit. And finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I picked him up, and I threw him through the open doorway into the condo/house. And he hit the ground on his face, meaning that I had accidentally thrown him at more of a downward angle than I meant to. And there was blood, not a lot. Looked like there might have been a couple of his teeth that fell out in front of him. And then all of a sudden there were all these people crowded around, not just the roommates that had originally been in the condo, but all these other people who I don't recognize. And there was mass chaos. And in the meantime, my mother, who had been standing in the dark outside, she started to get a lot more shadowed. It was like she almost didn't exist at all. And I have this feeling that all of those people were extensions of her. All of the people running around, maybe even the midget and that older lady with curly hair too, that all of these people were part of her, and the more of them that came out, the less of her that was really there. And in narcissistic abuse terms, I'd like to point out that these people were functioning, whether they meant to or knew it or not, as what some people call flying monkeys. For those who aren't familiar with it, I'll try and find some info about it for you online. I think that this guy, Narcissism Survivor, this narcissistic abuse coach on YouTube, has made a video about it, so I'll look for that and put a link in the description. I do want to give a warning that term comes from, it's a reference actually to a movie that's used in MK Ultra a lot, so it might not be the best thing for MK victims to research. But basically what it means is people who are being used as pawns by the narcissist to support their narcissistic abuse. They're often used to scapegoat victims. So a flying monkey could be the golden child of a narcissist, helping the parent to scapegoat a younger sibling. It could be the codependent spouse of a narcissist being used to reinforce their abuse towards someone else, etc. So these people were all functioning on my mother's behalf, and they were all running around just in total chaos about this violence that I had done to this midget that I didn't even mean to do. I was just trying to get him away from me and out of my face. And if this had happened in real life, I would still feel terrible and responsible, but this was a dream, and I digress. Anyways, I was very hysterical actually in the dream. I started regressing and even further, and I was absolutely terrified that I'd harmed this person. I started sobbing and apologizing. I was totally inconsolable and small. And the dream ended with my mother still standing outside in the dark, looking the way she always looked, with that horrible, hostile look on her face. But like I said, less of herself extended through these other people. And I was backed into the corner of the condo, away from the door, and there were these people crowded around me, and the midget was being ushered through towards me, and he was clutching the right side of his face, which was all fucked up. The left side looked terrified and traumatized, but intact, and somebody exclaimed that the left side of his face had been all fucked up, and then I woke up. And that last part is definitely significant because it involves a reversal of the left and right halves of someone's face/body, and that's a huge thing in Monarch programming. I did not intend to talk so long about this. I hope that those who have bared with me through all this have found it somehow useful or interesting.